Hello and welcome back to Jackknives Reviews. I'm of course your host, Jack Knives. It's a new year here on Jackknives Reviews, and with the new year comes new possibilities of things to review. I don't necessarily have any specific movies in mind, per se, as much as movies I kind of wanted to talk about before, but for one reason or another, just never got around to it. So I figured I might as well start off with a movie I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while. A movie that came out last year that kind of flew under the radar for what it was. So let's take a look at A24's Love Lies Bleeding. A reclusive gym manager named Lou falls hard for Jackie, an ambitious bodybuilder heading through town to Vegas in pursuit of her dream. But their love ignites violence, pulling them deep into a web of Lou's criminal family, led by her father. Can their love survive such turmoil, or will it lie bleeding? The subject of lesbian romance in cinema is a divisive one. Not necessarily because of being in a lesbian relationship is wrong in any way, which it isn't. It's more of, generally in the world of cinema, no one has ever been able to capture what it means to be in a lesbian relationship because it's either so over the top or it kind of is basically just a heterosexual relationship with gender swapped characters. And I was kind of worried that this movie would be that. There was another movie that came out around the same time called Drive-Away Dolls, which is a weird comedy lesbian romance romp movie, which a lot of people were kind of confused because they came out at the same time. However, I can say Love Lies Bleeding falls into the category of doing it proper justice because it focuses more on the actual drama, the romance, the action. Each character is very well developed and actually has their own motivations, their own abilities to connect to people, and they're very different from one another. Like any relationship, you don't want to just copy paste and have, well, what do they have in common? They're both women. Okay, what else? Do we mention they're both women? That kind of terrible writing can really throw off an audience, but this movie does it actually pretty damn well. One of the main leads and driving force of the story, Lou, played by Kristen Stewart, actually has quite a bit of depth to her, considering that it's Kristen Stewart and her acting usually ranges from either non-existent or so generic no one even remembers it anymore. But she actually plays a pretty subdued character in this movie. Her actions are simultaneously trying to be defensive but mysterious, but you actually kind of understand where she's coming from as the story progresses. And it kind of makes it better for rewatching, knowing near the end what you do going in. The other love interest, Jackie, played by Katie O'Brien, has this really cool depth to her as well, playing this whole thing of the glamour physique of wanting to be a fitness model, but not wanting to take away from her femininity. And that's kind of a really hard balancing act, especially in the world of bodybuilding. And essentially, you need to look strong, but you also don't want to look too masculine. And it's a whole thing that I'm probably not quite adept at explaining better as a man. But for what it was, the relationship actually felt organic. It felt real. It felt, I mean, they met at a gym. I mean, there's multiple relationships that start that way. And you have a person who's worried about their physique and another who's working at a gym kind of as a front, in a sense, without giving too much away. But the main villain, Lou Sr., played by Ed Harris, whew, I always forget how good an actor Ed Harris actually is. When he really wants to be, he can be a ruthless bastard. I know me talking about the romantic things may seem a lot of putting people off, but there's a lot of actual pretty good drama and action to keep even those cynical actually enthralled. It very much made me feel like a newer generation version of True Romance. So if you kind of are into that sort of movie, this would be a pretty good one to maybe watch in a double feature. It's one of those movies that I wouldn't necessarily pitch to the average mainstream moviegoer. I would actually say this is a pretty good dark romance movie. If you go in with the expectations of this is a romance action movie, you can be pretty surprised with how good it actually is. Although the ending is kind of left up to interpretation, it doesn't take away from the movie itself. It kind of more makes you want to dive deeper into it. If you go in with pretty low expectations and just kind of want to see a modern interpretation of the movie True Romance, I think you'll have a good time with this one. I give Love Lies Bleeding 4 out of 5. Have you seen Love Lies Bleeding? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, I'll see you next time.